Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Ford breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole gown.
Welcome to the show. This is The Hold Down. I'm your host, Ronnie Blakey, and this is my co-host, a man with 25 years in the game as a surf journalist.
Old.
He knows just about everything there is to know about the sport, and that's why he's here. Vaughan, good to see you.
On your doggy, welcome back to the set of The Hold Down. I hope you like my boards and my posters.
Looking pretty magic, isn't it? We got world title trophies, we got a bell down here. You did that. You did that. It's a second place trophy, mate. You can ring those ones. But another big show coming your way today. We're going to be having a look at one of the most successful campaigns in the history of the surf industry. It is The Search, Rip Curl's long enduring campaign. What is it that makes this thing so successful?
I'm glad you asked, doggy. In the early 90s, surfing was booming. We had a smoking hot looking world champ who was on Baywatch, one of the biggest TV show in the world. The industry itself was just experiencing phenomenal success. Money was just raining down on everyone, but not everybody was actually stoked on the direction surfing was headed. And a lot of people felt like the soul of surfing was starting to get sold out. And so two of the most core blokes out there, Brian Singer and Doug Claw Walbrick, who started Rip Curl, they wanted to sink their teeth into something with a little bit more soul and a little bit more rootsy. And so they came up with basically the best idea ever. And it was something every single surfer worth their salt could relate to. And that is find perfect waves and surfing by yourself.
Yeah, and they did a really good job at just blowing our minds with the locations that they uncovered in their images. They didn't give away the location of these destinations, but on the back of every surf mag, you had these ideal just lineups, perfect waves reeling by, nobody around. And yeah, it was something that I think a lot of people were able to sort of hitch their wagon to.
Oh man, and the films. Sonny Miller on board, filming right from the word go, making these just iconic movies that were just stripped back, you know. There was nothing to them. It was just the best surfing you can imagine by the best surfers in the best waves. And the craziest thing is that The Search really did pave the way for the career of the professional free surfer.
It did, but it also gave competitors an opportunity to step away from the tour and just re-immerse themselves in the glory of travel. Guys like Tom Curren, Chris Davidson, Nathan Hedge, and then the younger crew as well. Mick Fanning, he got in the mix.
That's right, mate. And you know, competitive surfing, think back to the early 90s, it was a joke. It was awful. The tour just followed, you know, summer around the world, trying to get bums on seats, all the people on holidays. And often, you know, if you look at coverage of surf events from that time, it's just dribble, 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 and more dribble. And basically, you were losing really great surfers like Mark Occhilupo, Tom Curren, who had actually already had a hiatus from the tour. He took a big break after winning those two world titles in the early 80s, came back in 1990, won through the trials, and 2 years later was already jack of it because the surf just wasn't giving him anything. And the total master stroke was he went off tour, straight into waves that everyone on tour wished they were surfing. And so who became the best surfer in the world all over again without even having to pull on a rashie? Tom Curren.
That's right. Well, today's show is going to be about breaking down the big moments from the Rip Curl Search, and we're going to kick it off with Tom Curren. This is our number 5. Number 5, Tom Curren on The Search. I think there's plenty of highlights that we could look at. We'll pull up some of the vision now. The guy was just a lord. He was the king of surfing at that point in time.
Mate, just to put into context of just how legendary Curren had become, just after his 3rd world titles, which he won through the trials, as we just said earlier, he turns up in Hawaii on this beautiful Morris Cole, you know, 7-foot pintail with yellow rails. Ditched all his stickers, went ballistic out at, you know, backed all that memorable cut he shot, just crazy, crazy stuff. And then he just went complete misto. And The Search was just sitting there for him to just completely enable him to do that in the most expressive ways possible. Everything he did was just completely blowing people's minds off. Curren's out there now riding skimboards, so he's gone the other way. He doesn't even like the wafers anymore. He likes those little delicate, tiny little wafers that you can't even dip into cheese without breaking them in half. He's just like, he's endlessly looking for, you know, the new sensation, something that's going to rejive and refreshen his whole approach. That's why he was the man. It was a masterstroke having Curren be the figurehead of the search after the initial, guinea pig phase with Gary Green yielded such gold results.
So from the tropical waters of Indo, Curren, where he just completely blew our minds, he puts the wetty on, hits the cool waters on a different continent, but still just absolutely redefines the way that you can basically read a wave.
Oh man, why did this take so long to happen? Curren and J-Bay? I mean, we'd seen Occy out there, his great rival for all those years, just blowing it the back out of J-Bay for, you know, a good decade by the time Curren had got there. It was just meant to happen. He went back to a slightly more traditional shape, but a very interesting board by Australian shaper Mark Rabbage. It's worth just keeping in mind, Ron, just how hard this must have been for the guys on tour, watching guys like Tom Curren just blow performance surfing out of the water with this whole new concept while they were just surfing in dribble.
Yep, it was definitely hard for him, but incredible vision of Curren. Of course, very deserving of being in the list, and I can't wait for the next search movie featuring him. So bring it on, Rip Curl. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to reveal our number 4 here on The Hold Down.
We're all washed up on the hold down.
Welcome back to The Hold Down. Today we're diving into the big moments from the Rip Curl search, and right now it's time to uncover our number 4. 7 Ghosts rightly falls into place at number 4 because for me this was a real departure from what the search had been. Looking for perfect lineups, typical perfect lineups, reef breaks, no one around. This was something completely different.
That's right, it came in the shape and form of a river bore. So a big tidal push that goes, you know, thousands of Ks up rivers, hundreds of Ks, sometimes only a couple of Ks. But it was, as you say, very different because the one astounding thing that just blew everyone's heads off was that first lineup shot. 7 waves, perfectly lined up, dead glassy. It looked too good to be true. We whacked it straight on the cover of Surfing World. I was like, this is just something we've never seen before. And even though I know it was tricky to surf, the images and everything just ticked that box of what you look for on a surf trip.
Dean Brady, Bruno Santos, Tom Curren were the surfers lucky enough to be invited to take part in the show, and it must have been pretty scary. I'm sure just looking at the images it was looking pretty inviting, but once you got there, the reality of the situation probably was weighing heavy. This is a lineup with logs floating by, with, you know, dead cows in the water. There was a lot happening.
And crocodiles. That river has crocodiles in it. So I mean, it's just all playing into this sort of head game that you've got to go through with yourself. The other thing that was trippy about this riverbore wave was that it was the biggest one I'd seen ever. I'd never seen an overhead barrel. You can see photos and images and the video of Curren and Santos getting barreled out there, which was just crazy. So yeah, I mean, the 7 Ghost trip, it really did sort of go into a new space for the search. It wasn't just that tropical thing. It wasn't just like going to the known sort of realm of where we expect to find waves. It was completely new turf, and it really got me fired up.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. I just can't help but think, how great would it be to have a riverboard just tearing down Sydney Harbour or up the Tweed River and get the opportunity to get some of that ourselves?
Well, here's the thing, mate. Like, riverboards were kind of like getting that little bit of wave pool froth for a second, because we had one in China, we had one in the Amazon, we had one even at home here at a Yamba. Fair enough, it was pulled along by a trawler, but you had these sorts of the birth of the science that has gone into wave pools came more from almost riverbores and trawlers and that sort of thinking than it did from, you know, just the standard old ocean. What's that?
Well, the change up with 7 Ghosts paid off big time for Rip Curl, and they actually took the tour on the search as well for 6 years there. Amazing events staged in Portugal, Reunion Island, Mexico. I'm giving away all these locations, but the best of them was certainly Mexico, and that comes in at number 3 on the Hold Down. The Search CT in Mexico was one for the books. One of the best surf events we've ever seen.
Oh my goodness, man, right from the word go, I think the first wave of the entire event was Troy Brooks getting funneled from the tip of this mystery right, we still don't know where it is, all the way to the end, and not just barrels, mate. I'm talking grinding, thick, eggy, spitting, dark brown, craziness. Just a psycho barrel. And it was just the starting gun on what was going to be one of the most memorable comps of all time. It has to be up there, actually. It's got to be one of the best comps ever.
100%. And if you had to compare the wave to a well-known wave, you'd have to say Curren. It was like Curren on steroids. It was so long and grinding, and it just served up excellent ride after excellent ride, and no one could really believe it. If you lost out in the early rounds at this event, it was a total nightmare, because you had to sit there in the stinking hot heat with a donkey lick in the back of your neck, watching everyone else just go absolutely mad. Yeah, that would have been, I don't know how you could have coped with losing an early round in that heat. That would have just been dead set knuckle sandwiches all day long for yourself. It would have just been hellish. But the thing is that comp was an idea brought into complete and utter perfection, because that's what they wanted to bring to the tour, Rip Curl, with the search events. The Dream Tour had been going for quite a while by the time these events started. So everyone was kind of used to seeing waves like G-Land, waves like Cloudbreak. But the thing was, we were seeing them every single year. And so to stick a new world-class wave in the middle of all that, didn't it just make the tour feel like the fresh energy that it needed? It was a big injection, and it made us all just go, yeah, more of this, please. All time. I just can't shake some of the rides out of my mind. Just so many excellent scores. I think Taj Burrow had one of the best waves he ever rode in competition at the search events. But the final, in the end, was taken out by Andy Irons.
Of all things, a big double grab air, and I think he was against Taylor Knox in the final, and poor old Taylor, you know, a guy who should have won many CTs, but just couldn't quite get it over the line, coming up against Andy Irons in his absolute prime. And, you know, I know it was a tube comp and that's how we remember it, but that aerial at the end is pretty significant even by today's standards. And it's worth noting as well just how well the Irons boys performed in these search events. It says a lot about how much they just loved surfing perfect surf, doesn't it? Because Bruce took out Padang, Andy took out Chile, and he also took out Mexico, and that says a lot about just how much froth those guys had when the waves were firing.
So good to look back on that vision again, isn't it?
So good.
One of the best. All right, well, stay with us. More to come on The Hold Down. After the break, we'll reveal our number 2.
We're all washed up on the hold down.
Welcome back to The Hold Down. Ronnie here with Vaughan. We've been running through the big moments in the search, and we've been going back through the archives. We've been deep in the archives. It's time to get current. Number 2. Outer Inner Space with Mick Fanning and Mason Ho absolutely blew up on the internet. Vaughan, you were there.
I was there, Ronnie. I was lucky enough to be there. After years and years of praying to the surf gods to go on a search trip, I finally got the call up. And you know, it's funny because the world is so different now to when the search started. Even the way we absorb surfing has changed so radically, because back then it was like wait for the video cassette to come out in your local surf shop, jump on your pushy, bang down there, skid out the front, chuck your bike, run in, hand over your 40 bucks, and then finally put that thing in. Now, of course, you get everything straight away on your phone. So the challenge with the search now is A, how do we keep these places secrets? How do we still instill a sense of adventure and, like, you know, fun and secrecy around these new discoveries? And are they even out there anymore? Secondly, how do we, like, you know, share those stories in the moment?
Mate, I loved it. First of all, I love just the opportunity here from Mick and Mason just rapping out. I love that, but I also just love the quality of the surf that you guys scored.
Yes, and when we say we, it was the three of us out there, the three amigos, the Chinas, eh? Best buddies. On your Mick, mate. Good to see you, boys. And I think that what I really loved about this trip was it wasn't just a swell run. There was hope that there would be swell when we got there. There was a little bit of a forecast, but it wasn't just there's a swell, pack your bags, let's go, dive bomb it and get out of there. This was 2 weeks camping in the desert, and like you said, you get to know people really, really well. And the opportunity to have Mick and Mason just communicate with each other in a really informal setting was, I think, a chance to see a new side of Mick post-competition. But it was also just cool to hang out with those guys away from everyone else and get to know them as people.
Well, we're going to hear some of those conversations right now. Mick Fanning and Mason Ho, Outer Inner Space.
If there's one thing you could learn, what would it be?
My dream would be like turn water into wine.
Big Jesus.
Is that what Jesus did? That guy, he must have killed it at the party.
The boys exploring the outer inner space there. Vaughn, now that you've been on the search, just give us a little rundown. What goes into deciding what trips you're going to go on? What waves you're going to chase down? What's the whole process?
Here's the thing, is that Mick, now that he's off tour and he has done so much travelling and just, has seen so much of the world, I think mostly the search is based around where does he want to go? Where is he interested in exploring? And so I think he drives a lot of it. But at the same time, Rip Curl are all about keeping their eyes and ears to the ground. If they get a whiff of something, they'll pounce on it. Which is a perfect introduction to bring us to number one. Ronnie?
Mate, we got to have a break first. I need a breather, and we are going to unveil what is holding down the number one spot on our list in just a moment. Stay with us. This is The Hold Down.
After the break.
We're all washed up on the whole down.
Welcome back, folks. Great to have your company once again here on The Hold Down. We've reached that point in the show where it's time to unveil what is sitting at number one. Ain't No Wave Pool absolutely blew the world's mind, mate. It was the Superbank all over again, only there wasn't 3,000 people out there.
It broke the internet, to coin a popular phrase by the youth of today, Ron. It was just so mind-blowing that after all this time that, Rip Curl have been on the search, in this day and age, with all the technology at our disposal, that a wave that no one knew about could pop out, and it just happened to be cranking, and it just happened to have a bloke who everyone wanted to see surfing outside of a contest brashie, having the time of his life on it. It really did encapsulate every single thing that the search has been out to achieve, and it did so with probably the most sickest soundtrack, the most kick-ass energy, and it just made me want to go surfing more than anything in the whole wide world. I want to go surfing right now even.
So this was 2016. Mick Fanning's having a sort of a hiatus from competitive surfing in select events, but he was taking time out, and he used that time wisely, didn't he? Just tapping into one of the most well-kept treasures in the surfing world.
Well, I mean, how many times has he been asked, where is the snake? That's what I want to know. And I'm telling you, it's a question we still want to know the answer to today, and I reckon he doesn't even know where it is. They say that they blindfolded him, put him in the back of a car, inside a Hessian sack, and then they put that inside a box with 2 padlocks on it. He was in there for 4 days before they got to the wave, mate.
Even though Mick has been asked so many times, he hasn't given away the location. And he's completely invested in keeping that wave a secret for good reason. He wants to go back and score it again.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the search, Ron, is that there's a full commitment to secrecy. Core surfers, don't give it up. Don't do it. If you find a new spot, keep it to yourself. It's easy. But here's the other thing I love, Doggy. Ain't no wave pool dropped right at the height of wave pool mania, and didn't it remind us just how damn good the ocean can be?
Oh yeah, and just the fact that you can still find waves like that. You know, they're still out there. You know, sometimes it might be a known location where you can just find yourself that secret little sandbar, but it's out there for everyone if they want to go chase it down.
That's right, and that's what the search is all about. Not just sitting in your comfort zone. Get out there, have a look around, keep it to yourself, get pitted off your head.
Mate, it's been fun running through the big moments of the search. A big thanks once again to Rip Curl. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll be breaking down more big moments from the sport of surfing.